A lot of times, y'all, when we think about the new year and new opportunities, I think sometimes it could be something as simple as just looking at the past. You know what I mean? Like looking at what was the one thing that made you happy? What was that one thing that you were excited to wake up in the morning about? A lot of times it gets very simple for me, and I'm like, man, I just want to fly again.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bout his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believing high level represent. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.
Where you at? Where you at? Where you at, beautiful people? How you doing? How you living? How life treating you? Welcome to another episode of Call Your First Witness. You already know it's your boy K Will checking in once again. Happy New Year to you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you made it to this side, man. I'm excited about today's show. You know what I mean? It's that time of the year, y'all. You know, how you looking? How you looking? We kind of in there now. We you know what I mean? How you looking in the gym? How you looking in the, I don't know, the kitchen? You understand what career goals we got going on? You know what I mean? What your vision board look like? I don't know if New Year's resolution is your thing. I really don't. You know what I mean? But look, there's something about the new year. There's something about just a clean start, a psychological clean slate. You know what I mean? And so as we plan, as we pursue, and we look at areas in our lives, man, and we just trying to figure out how can we get better, how we can achieve those goals, how we can evolve. You know what I mean? And so a lot of times, you know, I ain't gonna lie, I look into what's the new endeavor that I can pursue? What is something that I always was interested in that I can incorporate into my everyday life, you know? But I think a lot of times, y'all, when we think about the new year and new opportunities, I think sometimes it could be something as simple as just looking at the past. You know what I mean? Like looking at what was the one thing that made you happy? You know, what was that one thing that you were excited to wake up in the morning about? You know, that one thing that just, I don't know, gave you so much joy. I'm not talking about your kids if you have any. I'm not talking about your significant other. I mean, that's family. You're always going to have some joy and love and excitement about that most of the time. But I'm talking about, you know, when we think about our pursuit, right? You know, pursuit of happiness and wanting to evolve and get better in any area of our lives, a lot of times it gets very simple for me. And I'm like, man, I just want to fly again. You know, I want to get back to that feeling, man, when, you know, I was just off the ground, you know, and not to be nostalgic or anything like that. You know, not that it's something in the past that may never happen again, but real talk, how can I get back to that joy I had? Not saying that things are bad in my life or my career. That's not what I'm really saying. But sometimes we get so caught up in the hustle and bustle, in the grind, in the growth, the challenges of growth. I think sometimes we get removed for why we all got into this. And listen, it could be your career, it could be your health, your education, whatever the case may be. What was the thing that fueled us? Certainly you got to that happy place. And listen, today's topic may not be for everybody. You know what I mean? But I'm really, I guess, looking at the trajectory of where I came from and where I hope to be at. And what sticks out more is get me back to that place when I was just soaring, right? And I'm not saying that that's every day. I'm not saying that that's every month, right? We understand life is about ups and downs, man. How Frank Sinatra said it, in April you flying high, in May you shot down, right? We get that. We live life long enough, but sometimes we got to remind ourselves what truly made us happy. You know, can we recapture not the moment, but the feeling? It's not the moment, those moments you cherish, but the feeling you had, right? And what you were doing and how you moved about and who you were surrounded with, that part of your life. And I think a lot of times, man, we get removed from that. I remember not too long ago, you know, I was in Church Point, Louisiana, man. We were hanging out with friends, a good friend of mine, real close friend of my wife. You know, our kids are all the same age, so she had a little shindig at her people's house. You know what I mean? And it's in the country, it's quiet, good vibes, good food, good people. You know what I mean? It's St. Landry Parish. You know my love for St. Landry Parish, right? And so we just having a good time, kids running around, doing their thing. We laughing, we joking, that kind of thing. And I remember, man, it was a young kid who was around about four of us, man. And it just so happened to be the four of us. We were all lawyers, all went to law school around the same time. Southern University Law Center, real close, right? And I remember one of the adults was like, yeah, y'all lawyers, four of y'all. We got this young man who wants to be an attorney, y'all. Come on, man, give him some pointers. And y'all, in unison, we all said, don't do it. Don't do it, right? And we kind of laughed, but the crazy part, we were dead serious at the same time, right? And I would say all of us, you know, my wife was there, so her and I, we had 17 years in the game at the time. And then our friends, they had 18 because they got out a year before us, right? And it was the four of us. And we all said, don't do it. And it's crazy, y'all, because in that moment, I'm like, I feel the truth. I feel that we're speaking with conviction. But at the same time, I don't know if that's what we really want to tell this young man who has aspirations of being an attorney, right? And so there's one side of us who wants to be real and one side of us who wants to share our experiences and say, look, man, be an engineer, be a doctor, be a musician, be whatever else your heart desires. But see this field right here? Man, I just don't know, right? And so it's coming from a place, y'all, where, and listen, I've had these conversations a lot with many of my friends whom are lawyers. And it's not so much of us saying it's not what it's caked up to be. It's just the challenges, the grind, the stress, the demands, you know what I mean? That stuff add up. But I think what happens is I think we're so caught up in the bad experiences. I think whatever losses or setbacks we've had from that profession, we tend to dwell at that more than we relish in our success and our happy moments, right? I think it's no different than the saying you may have heard, I feel worse about my losses than the feeling that I have from my wins, right? I remember Nick Saban said that about his championships, and we could believe that because, dude, even when he was on top, he seemed mad. You see what I'm saying? But I personally understood that with my trials, right? Like the feeling, the low moments that I have, you know, that's not good PR for me, but I'm keeping it real with you. Like, you know, people don't like to talk about losing a case. I've lost cases, right? And it's not a good place for me. There are times when I'm like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. You know what I mean? And so we get so caught up in those losses and those challenges and the stress we endured. We forget the high points. We forget the moments when we were flying, right? How can I tell this young adult don't do it without telling him about the experience I had in St. Landry Parish when I tried my first murder case, right? And I'm delivering a closing argument to the jury, and I was in my bag, y'all. And everything I put into that moment, the grind, the hustle, the sweat and tears, the sacrifices, all culminated in that one moment, man. That was a feeling like no other. I was flying. I left that part out. I was too busy thinking about the ills of the practice and the setbacks, the low moments. My uncle told me a long time ago when I passed the ball, he said, man, your highs are going to be extremely high and your lows are going to be very, very low. And so we focus on the lows too often. And what I want to do when I try to get back to this happy place, right? Recapture the moment when I was flying. I want to focus on the highlights, y'all, right? In any endeavor, I'm only talking about my experiences as a lawyer, but other areas, other disciplines, right? Other trades, it's not roses and peaches. Right? We got to go through a whole lot of experiences. It's going to be challenges. It's going to be setbacks. But there was a time when nothing else mattered but that degree, that certificate, whatever that credential was, it was all or nothing. And it was the benefits from this grind and the opportunities and the doors that were going to open and actually open. Right? And so I'm excited about this year to getting back to the place where the sacrifices were worth it, right? And I don't want to use the setbacks as discouragement. You know what I mean? Like it reminds me of athletes, right? Football players, for example, quarterbacks, man, when they have a horrific injury, right? They in the pocket, you know what I mean? They get injured, maybe a torn ACL, a torn MCL, right? And so a lot of these athletes will tell you the biggest challenge is not the physical recovery, it's the mental recovery, right? They'll tell you, listen, I got back to 95% physically, but mentally, I wasn't there yet. It took me time. And the reason why it took them time, because mentally they were so caught up in thinking about, man, it's going to happen again. I'm going to get hit from my blind side again. I'm not going to see this person coming again. That means I'm going to be out for the year again. I can't lose this again. I can't afford losing another season. I can't afford sitting out having a backup quarterback take my place. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get my place back, right? And so you have a situation where these quarterbacks are kind of playing in the game, but they seeing ghosts because they're so mentally discouraged about what happened in the past. Right. And so even personally, a lot of times I find myself talking out of doing things that I once loved doing. Right. In pursuing things that once brought me joy because I'm so caught up in the challenges that I had to overcome. I'm so caught up in, man, yeah, but ain't no money in that. Right. All that's going to do is bring drama into your life. Oh, yeah, man, I didn't put in all that work and people pulling you from left and right, wanting you to do this, wanting you to do that, running up and down, going to court, going back to the office, returning phone calls, doing this, doing that, all that. And if you drop dead, guess what? It ain't going to really matter much. They're going to show up and ask for their file and take it to the next lawyer. I'm sorry about your loss. Right? And so we get so caught up in the things that ran us into the ground, but what about the lessons we learn? Right? Experience is life's greatest teacher. Right? I remember talking to my therapist and I'm like, man, I don't know if I could get back in the game like this. I don't know if I want to practice too much. I said, man, I had so many setbacks in building my practice. I don't know if I want to get back on the horse again. He said, yeah, but you're smarter now. Yo, you got to understand, whatever it is, I'm not just talking about law. Whatever it is, whatever discouraged you, yeah, but those setbacks made you smarter again. You going to do the same thing or you going to tweak it? Right? You're going to figure out the system that works for you. Or you're going to understand, man, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I came out the gate running really, really fast last time, but guess what? I'm going to take my time. I've learned from my losses. And so we got to put ourselves in a situation where we're not seeing ghosts. Now, I'm not saying continue to do the same thing that's just running you into the ground over and over and over again, right? Sometimes passion can be pain, right? I'm not saying that, but you know, if that one thing made you happy, right? And if you can just continue to nourish, cultivate, and develop that thing, right? And it don't have to happen overnight. You understand? Think about how you'll be flying again. That's the focus, right? That's the focus for me. Maybe I'm talking to one person listening to this. Maybe that's the focus for you. I remember, man, watching this real good movie, Formula One, Brad Pitt. Man, he was the main actor on the show. There's a brother who also was a main actor, did a really good job. Can't think of his name. But Brad Pitt, man, the story, his character name was Sonny Hayes, right? And so at the time, I don't know, Sonny Hayes was about maybe in his 50s. You know, he was asked to come back and race for one of his friends. You know, they had a history way back. But the story about Sonny Hayes, man, he was slated to be the next greatest Formula One racer, right? And so what happened was he got into a big crash, man, you know, and never bounced back from this crash. I mean, it was traumatic. He almost lost his life, and, you know, he lost his deals. He wasn't on top again. And mentally he was a wreck and never bounced back from it after all these years. Started gambling, married, got divorced again. Just couldn't get it together, bankrupt, right? And so Sonny is now asked to come back and race again. And so Sonny is at that place where he's experienced so many setbacks, so many disappointments, but the one thing he could not let go was getting back to his passion, the joy he had from simply just driving, right? And so many years after, he wasn't chasing fame. He wasn't chasing success and followers and all the celebrity that comes with it, right? He wasn't chasing that. He said, man, I just want to drive again. That's all I want to do. Because he said sometimes, right? Just sometimes. It doesn't happen often. Sometimes it gets quiet. It gets peaceful, right? It's just him by himself. And he's flying, y'all. He's flying. And you know what he said? Can't nobody stop him, right? I know what that feeling is. I remember those days. I remember looking at 12 people in a box. That's a feeling I never want to lose. That's what fueled me to get that degree. The long nights, the grinding, the studying, the sacrifices I made to get into law school, the sacrifices I made to pass the bar that got me all the way in this courtroom, and I'm arguing this case in front of this jury. And my client's counting on me, and I done stayed up all night, and I'm in the zone, man. I've had these feelings countless times, and that's the joy that I have. That's what fuels me. That's what I don't want to get away from. And let's keep it real. It's hard because this economy, it'll get you away from that, because now all of a sudden you chasing the money, and the thing that gave you joy ain't paying a whole lot. Right? A lot of trial lawyers, especially in the criminal defense world, really only in the criminal defense world, we like artists, right? The good ones. You know what I mean? Like, think about artists. All artists don't make a whole lot of money. You know what I mean? And so we put so much into our masterpiece, so much into the work, the grind. You've heard this. Why you think a whole lot of public defender offices are struggling? You hear the stories about lack of resources. We serve a demographic that just don't have it financially, but they deserve top tier level representation. And so the passion is not the money, but you face with the demands of life and bills and making sure your kids in school. I know I'm speaking to somebody. And so you got to make a decision to adjust. Man, what do I venture in? Is this a money decision? I can't keep doing this. This ain't nothing but stress anyway. So I'm going to jump off of this and I'm going to try to tweak this in my career. And they paying a whole lot of money over there. Right. And so I'm not knocking that because you got to do what's best for you and what's best for your family. But if we're being honest with ourselves, we're also letting that joy fade away. I don't got the answers today, y'all. I just decided I'm going to turn on the mic and just let it rip. I don't know. Somebody may feel me, maybe not. Maybe I'm talking in a mirror. But the idea is, why did I do this? It's not always about what's new. It's not always about chasing something else. Sometimes it's just about capturing the joy we once had, right? Rekindling that flame. You know, I remember KD, man, Kevin Durant, before he went to the Golden State Warriors. You know, it's Kevin Durant. Like you say, y'all know who I am. I'm Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant was great when he started with Oklahoma City. But society was telling him, yeah, but you don't got no rings. And so Kevin Durant, man, he was getting closer and closer to the championship. He had his squad. He had Westbrook. He had Harden. And they were making a run. They were falling short. But society was telling him, man, you ain't nothing without these rings. And so what I'm saying is a lot of times we're not chasing what make us happy. We chasing what society deem as success. And so what KD did, he said, well, look, I'm going to join the Golden State Warriors. Y'all remember that story? He got his 2 championships. He got the rings. He got all that. And when he got the rings, what they said, yeah, but, you know, that was Steph's team. You know, I mean, come on, let's keep it real. They were already loaded. And so when KD got the rings, he was like, nah, right? So a lot of times we might be chasing something that we think is going to make us happy. It ain't nothing but perceived happiness. And then when we get it, we like what? It was all right? But KD will always tell you, man, I just like balling. You know, I just like balling from growing up and playing pickup ball and talking smack to the other people either on the court or folks ain't even suited up. You know what I mean? Like that was the joy he had. That's what made him make all the sacrifices. That's what got him to the league, right? Forget what society told him. People gonna say what they want to say anyway. And so all I'm saying, man, my message, you know, from time to time I gotta change it up and just, I don't know, be a little inspirational. You know, like I say, I don't know, motivate myself. I'm not a motivational speaker. Let me keep it 100 with you. I am not a motivational speaker. Let's make that clear. I don't believe I can motivate anybody. If it's not in you, it's not in you. Right. And so that's not what I'm here for. But I just feel like, man, and maybe it was my experience with my friends and my wife, man, sometimes we get so caught up in the negativity of our experiences, we forget about the joy we once had. And so I challenge some of you, let's get to the joy we had. Let's be intentional. Again, we're smarter now. We learn from our losses, right? It ain't over. We got to stop seeing these ghosts, right? Don't worry about what society talking about. Don't chase the fame and the followers and all that kind of stuff. Forget the bureaucracy and the politics. And sometimes we got to figure that money thing out too. I'm not saying quit your job to go back to do the thing that once made you happy, yet the job paying your bills. All I'm saying is be smart in your approach. Be methodical, right? Base hits. Some of the best business advice I got was from my AC guy, y'all. I'll never forget this, man. My AC guy came to my house one time. I forgot the problem I had. He came in and his service was top tier, right? And he knew his stuff backwards and forwards. You know what I mean? He just knew how to do business. And back then, I don't know, maybe I was about 10 years in the game, had my own firm, that sort of thing. But I was just inspired by just the way he handled himself. He had his own business and he said it so simple. It always stuck with me. I said, bruh, man, how did you get your business to this level, man? Because I could tell just how you operate, you doing well. He said, man, base hits. Too often we trying to hit the home run. We trying to knock it out the park, man. Sometimes we just got to get on first base. And then after that, we get on second. Think about it. That resonated with me so well because if we think about it, the sluggers of today, Ohtani, Aaron Judge, man, they knock it out the park, boy. But when they swing and miss, It's profound, right? And so a lot of times we so caught up in our swings and our misses, right? But we keep swinging for the fences. What I'm saying, base hits. You don't have to quit the gig that's paying the bills, but you could be methodical in building something. You can be very intentional in building an empire. It's gonna take time, right? It's gonna take some work. It's gonna take some more sacrifices. I know you're tired of that. But think about the joy, because no matter what you do, you're gonna always chase that feeling. You're gonna be like Brad Pitt in that movie, trying to recapture that desire, that love, that time when what? You were flying. It ain't gonna go away from you. It's like Kobe Bryant said, you can't suppress that passion. I don't care what you do. That's my time, y'all. That's how I wanted to start the year out. I don't know, maybe this was for me, y'all. You know, I'm not one to sit up here and make it seem like I'm the most successful guy and I got it going on. Nah, man. I told y'all when I started this podcast, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. Your boy be like, 1 minute I'm like, man, I want to just walk away from all this. That moment I said we had with the kid, and we all told that kid all together, don't do it, I meant it. But I had to remind myself, I love this, right? It's because it's the passion, it's the joy. And despite the grind, despite the stress, despite the setbacks, man, it's about getting back to what I love doing. And that's what I'm doing now. And that's what I want to continue to do. And I'm excited about this year. I'm excited for you all, right? Man, let's make this happen. I want to hear the stories. I want to get more connected with you. Keep support me. I appreciate the love. I'm trying to make this thing grow, y'all. It's a challenge, y'all, but I'm going to keep bringing it as best as I can. That's my time, y'all. Until next time, love.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believing high level represent. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.